Hi everyone, welcome to the AITD webinar series for 2017. My name is Neil Von Hupt, I'm the AITD Programs Manager. We're having monthly webinars which tie into the themes of the National Conversation, which over April and May is on Learning for Performance. I'll introduce today's presenter shortly, but I'm putting up the current slide just to let you know that you are on the right webinar. The National Conversation brings together AITD's Training and Development magazine, curated content and discussions in our LinkedIn group, local events and Twitter. And if you're tweeting today, please include the AITD handle down the bottom of your screen at AITD1 and the hashtag AITDwebinar. Over the last year, we've run all of our webinars, we've recorded webcasts, short videos and live video conferencing through Redback. They're not just a great technical provider, they also help you to think through how you can get the most impact from what you're doing, and they're nice people to work with. If you haven't used this platform before, I'd actually recommend expanding the chat box at the side, and rather than just listening today, get into it, as a few of you are doing already. Ask questions, make comments, share any relevant links that you know. I often end up with a couple of extra windows open while I quickly Google a resource that I can think of to share into the chat box, and I'll be doing that as we progress today. If you're having any trouble with sound, you can actually dial in as well on the numbers that are on your screen at the moment, and they would have been in the confirmation email that you received. It was my great pleasure to meet Driesen at the AITD 2016 conference. Ger is based in the Netherlands and in the same village that Van Gogh grew up in, and he brings a creative, considered and intelligent approach to workplace learning. He's known as the Dutch L&D trend catcher and is the learning innovation leader at A New Spring. He's currently in his hometown of Noonan. It's spring there, and it's -5 degrees overnight, but there is no snow. And so, Ger, welcome, and I will hand the stage over to you and join you again at the end of the webinar.
Okay, thank you. Nice to be here, and nice to have the opportunity to explore this topic with you all. So, thanks for the introduction, and I saw some nice names in the chat box, people I met in Sydney, so please continue using the chat box as we go along. So we are talking about exploring the causes of poor performance today, and I'm a bit curious about why you have chosen to join this webinar, and so maybe you can tell me something about poor performance. What are the actual topics in your situation, in your organization, or at your clients' sites related to poor performance? Please let me know. Type something in the message box if you like, and maybe we can use it during the webinar. So, to start with, Neil already told you a bit about my visit to AITD, so I had the feeling I had to include these nice pictures, my best memories from almost a year ago, and gets me a good mood to run this webinar. So that's why I included them, and maybe the people on the photo are in the webinar right now. Would be nice. So let's have a look at what we will do. Well, let's meet Jenny and Bob and look at their story around poor performance and how they did go. So this is Jenny, and Jenny is a team leader, software development. Her colleague is Bob, and Bob works in a team of Jenny as a software engineer. They both are running a software development project for a pharmaceutical plant, and the work is kind of challenging, but from that side very technical, interesting, and so a nice job to do, as Jenny says, as you know also from her team members. Bob really agrees to that and says, okay, but it's also purposeful, helping to create a new plan that can create the next generation of drug for life-saving treatment. So that's a real nice purpose related to their task. Let's have a look at the actual project status. And of course, that's Jenny's job to keep that in mind and to steer on that. So for today, she says, okay, we are kind of ahead of the planning on the software side. And that's very unusual. And normally, it's hard to be on time in the project delivering software. So that's a very nice situation looking at the project status. At the other side, are a little behind on the documentation side. So that needs some attention. Teamwork is good, so real nice team. And then there will be an assessment by the authorities soon. And you can see the exclamation mark because authorities really assess them on, okay, how are you doing with the software, but also how are you doing with the documentation. So that's why Jenny has this concern also about documentation. So Jenny thinks, I have to do something, and if I have a closer look, I have to have a chat or do something with Bob, because if I look at the performance of Bob related to the whole project status, then I can see this overview of how he is performing over the last few months. So each month he is on time by delivering software, the right amount and the right quality. So no issue there. In the first month, documentation wasn't on time and the quality wasn't that good. So Jenny had a conversation with Bob how to improve, and then the next month everything was okay. Then in month 3, 4 and 5, quality stayed okay related to software, but documentation, it's hard to get it on the right track, looking at timing, but also looking at quality. So that's a kind of a problem. So Jenny asks, okay, L&D folks, help me out, help me with this issue. And she said, of course, I have my own thoughts on the situation, and I had 3 options in mind, and please help me out. So I thought maybe we could help Bob and improve him and his output by providing him time management training. Or maybe he could improve on writing skills. So I had a thought about giving him a writing skills training. Or maybe we should take a broader perspective and send him to a project management training. So please, my training provider or my training consultant, help me. What would be the best option to go for? So that's the question to you. So can we please get the poll now? Okay. So there is a poll, and please give me your answers. What would be the best way to go? Deliver time management training, send them to writing skills training, or project management training. Please give me your advice. You are all good learning and development advisors, HRD professionals. So Jenny really needs to solve this problem quickly, and she wants a good advice. That's why she turned to you with this situation. And of course, we like the way she prepared the whole situation, had her own ideas, gave a nice overview of the actual status. Okay, I see a lot of others as the way to go. And for each of the training, 1 time management, 1 writing skills, 1 on project management, and it seems no more new stuff coming in. So let's stop the poll Okay, so most of you say something other. So please type in also in the message box what would be another way to go here to approach this problem. And Sean says, I don't think it's a specific training need. Is it a priority for him? Slides are now blank. Is that right? Yes, that's right. So maybe I shall skip back to this one. Chat to Bob. Okay, about what you have noticed. Okay, it could be motivation. Yeah, maybe. Nice way to think. Need to understand why he's not doing the right thing. Okay, wanting to talk with Bob before we started working out what he needs. Okay, there's a lot of talking going on the project, but we need software and documentation. So explore with Bob what contributes to the lack of documentation. Okay, thanks. Really some nice approaches how to go. So let's continue and let's meet some other guys. So please meet Gary and Alan. These guys are Gary Rummler and Alan Brace, and they both wrote a book on improving performance. I think Gary Rummler is the most famous one connected to the part of improving performance, but the original book he wrote together with Alan Brace. So we will look at next is directly related to this book and the ideas of Rummler and Brace. So let's explore them a little bit further. What we saw in Jenny's question, she said, okay, I had this situation, it's a problem to me, I have to manage the situation, so there needs to be improvement, and I thought of 3 options in mind, 3 types or directions of training, and that way to go is what Rummler and Brace would call the vacuum view of performance. And say it's a narrow view, because if you say there is a performer, that's the person who needs to get the job done, that's the output the performer has to deliver, then if that doesn't work, it has to do something with skills or knowledge, probably. So first thing to do is why not send this person to training so his or her skills or knowledge will improve, and so performance will be better. And of course it's the vacuum or narrow way to look at the situation, and what those 2 guys helped us doing is say, okay, wait a minute, the situation is a bit broader, and let's have a broader look at what's going on. So what you see right now is the 9-grid model of Rummler and Brace from the book. It's just a photocopy from the book, and they say, okay, we can have a look at these kind of situations on 3 levels: the organizational level, the process level, and the job or performer level. And then we can have a look at these levels towards 3 aspects: the goals, the design, and the management. And if you make a nice grid out of it, you have the 9-grid model. If you have a look at the book, it's kind of a complex book. It's not always that attractive if you have a look at it and say, okay, if you are learning and development professionals, maybe that's not the way to go for me. But it's nice to have a second look, and in my experience, there is a lot of good stuff in the book, and the best way to go, normally say, okay, let's start from the top organizational level, and then the process level, and then the job performer level. But I found out the other way around is the best way to go for most of us as learning and development professionals. And it's very, it's much more easier to go that way, because it connects better to the way we look at situations, and I guess also it's better connected to our responsibilities. So my suggestion is to start at the job performer level and work from that. And there's no reason why you couldn't or shouldn't start at that level. And in fact, if you start at that level, you will get connection to the process level by doing so. So we will focus on the job performer level and have a closer look at it. So we had a narrow or the vacuum view on performance, and if we have the extended view, so at level 3, then we see this picture. In the middle we see the performer, and then we see 6 categories of aspects that will be possible, will be influencing outputs and performance. So if we continue, then performer in this situation would be Bob. And if we have a closer look at the top side, at the 1, it's about performance specifications. So how clear is the output? If we have a look at box 2, it says task support. So how well, how good is the task support for this performer? Then we have a look at 3, it says consequences. We will have a close look at it. What kind of consequences does the performer receive or get back when he is doing his job? Feedback, does he get feedback? And then, hey, skills and knowledge at 5. So there is definitely a part related to skills and knowledge we have to look at. How is the performer doing? How capable is he? And the individual capacity. And in general, Rumble and Brace say, okay, skills and knowledge as a cause of poor performance, yes, it can be possible, but in general, only 50% of the cases, skills and knowledge are the root cause for the problem. So that means 85% is a different cause, and so a different cause means knowing the cause maybe needs a different way to go to solve the problem. So let's have a closer look, and we will do the analysis now related to the story of Bob. So first, let's make a clear problem statement. What is the problem statement in this situation? Well, first we have to ask ourselves, what is the desired output or behavior? Well, in this case, documentation is delivered on time and every month. That would be the ideal situation. What is the actual situation? Well, documentation is not delivered on time and not 100% correct. So we have a gap, and then we have to focus on who is related to this. Well, in this situation, it's all about Bob. So now we have a clear stated problem. Let's continue doing the analysis. So first we will focus on the performance specifications and have a closer look at the questions related to that. I included both Jenny and Bob's comments on these questions, and of course you could have a discussion who should do this analysis. You as a learning and development professional could be, on your own could be, but maybe together with Jenny, maybe together with Bob, or maybe you start for yourself, or you start with Jenny and then include Bob. It depends on the situation. Everything is possible with that. Just apply it in a smart way. So the first question is, do performance standards exist? Is it clear what this performer should deliver? Well, both Jenny and Bob say yes, performance standards, they do exist. Then the second one is, do performers know the desired output and performance standards? So if they exist, it doesn't mean that the performer who has to use them is aware of them. Well, in this situation, Jenny says, yes, I explained them more than once, and that's an answer you often can get from a manager, but that doesn't mean, if you explain it once or twice, that the performer also knows or really is aware of it. But in this case, Bob says, yes, I know them. Then the third one is, do performers consider the standards attainable? And then, okay, Jenny thinks okay, it's not that interesting because do performers consider the standard attainable? It's about the performer. In this case, it's about Bob. Bob says, "Mwah, I consider the standard attainable. It's about the performer. In this case, it's about Bob." Bob says, "Mwah, I always try to deliver my software on time because I want to surprise my team lead by that." And this documentation stuff, okay, I will focus on that a bit later. If I have to do both on time and perfect, well, not that sure if I can deliver them both on time. So quite often people say, "Hey, wait a minute, but is this a topic to discuss? Because Bob just has to do his work and trainable or not. Hey, come on, then you have to work a little bit harder maybe." You could go that way, but maybe that's a bit naive. So if there is a situation that the performer thinks the output, the desired output, and the standards are not attainable, then I think you should have a deeper discussion and try to find out why. Let's continue. So we have the first analysis. Then let's go to the second one, task support. What about task support? First question is, can the performer easily recognize the input requiring action? So is there a trigger? Is there a moment in time? Will he receive input one way or another so that the performer knows, okay, now I have to act, now I have to start working on this task? Jenny says, yes, okay, the planning is clear. We have a clear planning, and everybody working on the project is aware or can approach or see or easily recognize the planning. So must be clear. And Bob says, yeah, indeed, it's clear, but maybe a reminder at the end of the month near the deadline. That would be cool. So it reminds me, okay, keep your eyes also on the documentation. That's what Bob says. Then the second question is, can the task be done without interference from other tasks? Jenny says, okay, maybe it's not that easy, but if you plan it the right way, then it can be done. There is freedom of planning. So if you plan to do your tasks, then you can do them without interference. And Bob agrees on that, says, yes, it would be a matter of planning, so no real issue over there. Then, are the job procedures workflow logical? Jenny says, yes, I guess so. Never heard anything complaining or no roadblocks or whatever on that. But now Bob says, oh no, the workflow is crap. You know, to make that documentation, I'm working in one system to create the code. And then if I have to make documentation, I have to open another app and I have to copy and paste a lot. So that's really crap. Man, it's 2017. Why don't we have an easier system to get this documentation done in an easier way? Then the next question is, are adequate resources available? Times, tools, staff, info, etc. Jenny says, I guess so. And Bob says, well, that seems same kind of question. In general, it's okay, but as I said before, the system, how to make my documentation is not that easy. It's a crap system to work with and a crap procedure to work with. So we have an issue there. But we continue doing the analysis. So I skipped the consequences for a while, now go to feedback. We will be back on consequences later. So let's have a look how the feedback is working. And the questions here are, do the performers receive information about their performance? If you know what to do, and if you are working hard, but you have no feedback, so you have no information, no clue whatsoever about, am I on the right track, am I doing the right things, etc., then it might be hard to keep at the right level of performance. So in this situation, Jenny says, yes, we have regular meetings and I give feedback and we have the project documentation and information. So on a regular basis, related milestones, there is a feedback loop. And Bob says, yes, I get a monthly praise for my output on the software side. So Jenny says, okay, well done. Once again, you did quite well on the software side. Hey, hey dude, wait a minute, also look at your documentation side. It's also important to stay on track with that part. Then the second one, is the information they receive relevant and accurate and timely and specific and easy to understand? That's about the quality of the feedback that people receive. And then Jenny says, yes, I guess so. I do my best to make it relevant, accurate, timely, specific, and easy to understand. Bob says, yes, for most part, but I think that Jenny panics a bit too much about the documentation part. She says that the authorities won't give permission to start a plant if the documentation is not 100% correct. I don't believe that. I don't think it's that way. Those guys from the authorities, they always shout that kind of stuff, but okay, that's not the way it goes. So I think, I don't think it works that way. And at the end, authority guys, I think they are that strict really. We have to discuss with them and everything will be fine at the end. So a different idea about the authorities and how they could act. Then let's have a look at skills and knowledge and also at individual capacity. So the questions here, based on Rumble and Brace level of analysis, is skills and knowledge and individual capacity to the performance have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform. Then Jenny says, this seems problematic. Does Bob need more planning skills or writing skills? Bob says, sure, I do have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform. I can do documentation perfectly if I want to or choose to, and please don't send me to any training program. Then do the performers know why the desired performance is important? And then Jenny says, it should be. I explained a few times about also the importance of the documentation, but it seems not that easy to convince Bob about that situation. And Bob confirms that, said, why is everybody so frantic with worry about this documentation stuff? And then the next one about individual capacity. Nice question, interesting question. Are the performers physically, mentally, and emotionally able to perform? And maybe it's a strange question, and in general, it's only within those 15% of skills and knowledge, etc. And this one is only 1% that there is something not okay with that. Yes, Neil says an interesting thing. M2, the second month, he could deliver his and his software and his documentation on time. So that's a real interesting clue. Hey, he is able, one way or another, during that month, to deliver everything as expected. So that's a good clue, and that's a good remark. Then what says Bob? Let's start with Jenny. I think there's no problem on this part, I'm pretty sure. And Bob says, hey, what a kind of question is it? Hey, dude, I'm cool. So some explanation about this one. There are situations when people have to work at heights and they have fear of heights. That could be a thing. There is something that people might be worried about. I have to do a presentation for a large group of people. I'm frightened to do so, to be on stage or whatever. So it can be that kind of situations once in a while that performers are physically, mentally, or emotionally not able or not yet able to to perform. So let's continue and let's have a look at consequences. Here are a few questions, and the first one is, are the consequences aligned to support desired performance? Well, we have to have a closer look at this. Jenny says, Never thought about this, and Bob doesn't understand this question. Then the second is, are consequences meaningful from performance viewpoints? So he says, okay, that's a question we have to ask Bob. And Bob says, I don't understand what you mean. Then, are the consequences timely? Okay, also not that easy. So let's have a closer look at consequences, and there is another way to help us out to find out about consequences, and that's in the next slide. So we have to dig a little bit deeper, and therefore we can use the balance of consequences. What we will do here is that, in fact, it seems that Bob has a choice every time to create a desired output or to create the actual output. So we can have a closer look at both directions and what will Bob experience if he takes one road or the other road. And what we want to find out is which road is more comfortable for Bob to take, the easy road, the easy way to go. Well, let's have a look at the first one. If Bob wants to choose the desired output so that documentation is delivered on time and correct, also, of course, combined with the software. What would be the direct consequences? Well, Bob says, I guess if I deliver them both on time and correct, I will be praised by Jenny for both of them. What are the negative consequences of that? Okay, if I do so, I need to spend some of my time on dull work of documentation with an awful system, so I don't like that. Then let's have a look at the consequences a bit later. Well, Bob says, okay, I can imagine that I will get a positive appraisal there. Negative consequences, he says, I'm not sure. Can I deliver both documentation and software on time? If I have to do that every month, will I be able to do so? If not, there will be negative consequences for me. And what will be the consequences for the organization? Positive, in the sense there is a positive review by the customer, negative review if we can't deliver both. So this is the route with the consequences for Bob on this side. And let's have a look at the actual output. So he has delivered his software on time, and the documentation may be a bit later or incomplete, but he will work on that at the end of the project. What does that mean for him directly? Well, he has more time available to work on software side, and there is praise by Jenny for being so good at delivering software. At the other hand, Jenny says, hey Bob, come on, let's continue deliver documentation also. What are the consequences a bit later? Well, we will be ahead of planning with software. That's kind of unique. Everybody will be excited about that, and I will feel good about that. Negative part a bit later. Okay, maybe Jenny will discuss it with me again at my appraisal, and she won't be that positive about it. What will be the consequences for the organization? Well, customers will be surprised when we are ahead with software, ahead of planning, but at the end there might be a penalty for not delivering documentation. So now at the end we can ask the question again, which route is most interesting, most easy to go for the performer, in this case for Bob. And we have to take into account that we humans tend to be acting much on direct consequences. So it's like with drinking, with smoking, with eating. The reward we get instantly from that behavior is really nice, can be really nice. And the consequences for later, we know about them, but they are hard to keep us from smoking, drinking, or whatever, eating too much. So that's the part of psychology related to this part. So now we have had a closer look at the balance of consequences. We can go back to the question. Say, okay, are the consequences aligned to support desired performance? So no, says Jenny. We need to solve the system thing, and I should be clearer about what I really want and praise for the things I really want. Bob says, no, I tend to do the nice software work, although I get a reprimand on my documentation sometimes, but I take that for granted. Then are the consequences meaningful for Bob? Jenny says, I have to discuss about that with Bob. And Bob says, no, not really. Like I said before, in this situation, I would continue this way to go. Are the consequences timely? That one is so related to the short-term consequences and the longer-term. Jenny says after this analysis, no, I think I can adjust them. And Bob says something interesting. No, because nice work every day on the software side, and that's reprimand once every month. Okay, I can live with that. So that's how Bob experienced the consequences. Okay, then we did all the analysis. Then we do the overview. Say, okay, this was the level 3 analysis. Now let's create an overview. What are the positives and what are the negatives? So every green tick, you could say, okay, for that part of the performance system, everything is okay, nothing to be done. For the red crosses, say, okay, wait a minute, those are not optimal. So what is the way to go? What's next? What should we do? Knowing what we know right now. So the question is, what would you do? Please send me some messages in the message box. Let's get started. So some of them say, okay, we need Bob rid of his glasses, I think. Change the consequences for Bob, says Susanna. Yeah, that's a nice one. So we have to think, can we create some other consequences that are more aligned to what we want? Yeah, get Bob to help create a new process. Yes. Explore fixing the software issue. Yes. Can we do so as learning and development professionals? No, that's too fast. Connect documentation to something Bob likes or does. Okay. So now that we have this overview, yeah, it gives us clue what the root causes are for not having the right level of performance. So we should have a look at interventions that take away the causes of this poor performance. And in this case, skills and knowledge are not the way to go. So it are other things we have to do to get this, to get Bob at the right level. There was a remark, okay, we have to fix the IT stuff. Yes. Is it something that we have to do as L&D professional? I guess no. But after helping Jenny out with this analysis, we can help her and say, and she will know, okay, I have to fix it. So a lot of these things are also management tasks. So sometimes it's confronting when managers do this analysis. They think, okay, I can easily go to learning and development and they will fix the problem. But at the end, if we do the analysis together, it seems that the manager has to do a lot of work or is responsible for fixing something or asking other experts to solve the question at hand. So next step, design solutions for the factors with the red cross and implement them. And as I said before, work in partnership. So L&D professionals and managers and the workers, the professional, other specialists, who do we need to involve to get the issue solved? So choose the right people to solve the right issues and to get Bob up to speed again with documentation. So another point of view to conclude with, we now used this model as an analysis tool. Say, okay, there is a performer who doesn't perform the way we thought he would do. So let's check all the items and see what the causes are. And you can also use this as a design tool. If you say, okay, we have to implement new tasks. Okay, we never did this before. Then you can take this as a kind of checklist and start with one. This is a new task. Then we have to ask ourselves, do performance standards exist? Do we already have an idea of the performance standards? Then the second, how can we communicate them to that very clearly so they know what the standards are, etc. So we can use all these factors, all these items as a kind of checklist to be sure that we have all components in place to organize for good performance. So that's it about the Rumbler's approach, Rumbler Embrace approach on the level of the performer, and a way to analyze what's going on in the real situation and who should solve this situation after we found the root causes. Of course, I very much like to have an overview on the chat box once again. If you have questions, please ask them. And I want to conclude this with, if you like, I send out some curated, what I call Geer's learning notes, bi-weekly curated notes about trends, etc. in learning and development. If you would like to have a look, please do so. And I hope it's something nice for you. Okay, let's get back to Neil. Yeah.
Thank you, Geer. That's great. And I would add my my enthusiastic endorsement to Geer's learning notes. I've been getting them for a couple of months now, and they have some great things in there. Geer, if you can jump into that chat box, I know there's a few people in there with some questions, and we'll have Geer in there for the last couple of minutes while I just kind of close off with a few last slides here. We want to encourage you to keep learning, always. The latest edition of Training and Development magazine is actually packed with articles on the current theme of learning for performance. And at the back of it, there's actually a new column highlighting resources on the theme that are also available through the EBSCO database. If you're not an AITD member and you'd like a copy of the magazine, then just email us at learn@aitd.com.au, and you can also check out the resources that are available on the AITD website. It's 3 weeks to go today until AITD 2017, our national conference, and can I say I'm excited. It's such a good professional development opportunity, top-class international and Australian presenters, networking, the exhibition. If you haven't registered yet, it's not too late. Please jump online and join us at the national conference. A final shout out for Redback, and particularly in this webinar to Vesna, who has looked after us for the last year as our account manager, but is heading off to travel and study. So we say, bye Vesna, we will miss you. And finally, just to say thank you for participating today. We look forward to seeing you again for our next online or face-to-face event. The recording of this webinar will be available on the AITD website early next week. And the chat box will stay open for another couple of minutes. So this is Neil von Hoopt here, wishing you a lovely sunny afternoon, and enjoy your afternoon.